Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, Enhancing User Experience with Office 365 in itslearning. My name is Mauricio Romero from Higher Education Department at itslearning, and I'm sitting here in Bergen, Norway with Frøydis Hamre, a product owner at itslearning. I see we have many attendees from different countries, and it's fantastic to have such an international audience joining us here. We're very excited to present this topic that is specially designed for universities, but it also gives great insights for all levels in education about the latest capabilities in itslearning. More in specific, with this fantastic integration with Office 365 in the platform. Before we begin, I'm going to present real quick the agenda. First, we're going to have a brief introduction about Frøydis and her career in itslearning, followed by this presentation about the integration of Office 365 in itslearning. Finally, we will present some useful information to complement this session before we get to the closing. So please stay tuned until the end. Without further ado, I set the microphone to Frøydis now. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So I'll just start by telling you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching chemistry, maths and science in upper secondary school for 8 years before joining itslearning. I was also involved in various ICT works in schools and in our school district. So now I've worked at itslearning for 5 years with various areas in the product. At the moment, my main focus is on Microsoft integrations and also a new tool for individual learning plans, which is very central, at least in the Scandinavian K-12 market. So over the past 6 months, I've spent a lot of time exploring Microsoft integration possibilities, talking to administrators and teachers, and following the evolving trends connected to especially Teams and OneNote. Input from end users is crucial for us to make sure we spend our time and effort on building the right things that are needed and will be loved. I will demonstrate a feature or two live, and I apologize in advance that you might see a mix of English and Norwegian. I switch between the two all the time, and my computer is somewhat confused. This will not be an issue for normal itslearning users, as they would most likely have a more consistent use of languages than I have. For those of you who already use itslearning, you might see some features you don't recognize, or the other way around, you might miss something. Being able to toggle features is an important part of our development process to test things before we roll them out to all our customers. Cloud-based solutions are increasingly used, and our goal is for you to be able to choose your cloud solution and still have a smooth experience in itslearning. We have focused on the two biggest actors in the market, Google and Microsoft. Today I will talk about Microsoft and Office 365 in particular, and go through our existing integrations and possibilities. Then I'll take a look at what we're working on right now, and it's of course tempting to look further into the future and what we want to do. But at the same time, we're in a continuous process to learn and prioritize. And what we think we'll do today might not be what we end up delivering a year or two down the line. So I want to start simple. It's very easy for me, surrounded by developers and tech people, to use technical terms that might not be as crystal clear for everyone else. So what is an integration? In the digital world, an integration is some kind of communication interface that exists between two products or pieces of software. For example, you can fetch information from one system into another, or opposite, send information from one system to another. And you are surrounded by integrations in your daily digital life. Your mobile apps communicate with other applications or servers or services around you and other systems. Itslearning has had an integration with Office 365 email and the possibility to use Azure as an SSO for a long time. Those are more of a technical nature, and I won't go into them in detail, but in short, our integration with the Office 365 email makes it possible to manage your emails from itslearning, either with or without a separate Office 365 account. It's also possible for administrators to use this to manage accounts for Office 365 through itslearning. It's important to note that this is not an integration with other Office 365 applications. Access to OneDrive, both a personal OneDrive and a OneDrive for business or education, means you can connect your Microsoft account to your itslearning account to to be able to fetch files from OneDrive into itslearning no matter what device you use. There is no dependency between this option and the Office 365 email integration. A couple of years ago, we also added the option to use Office Online inside our LMS. We spent a lot of time piloting this, meaning we turned it on for only some of our schools and let them test it. This is now available for everyone and can be enabled by the administrator. In addition, you can always embed simple and efficient resources like Microsoft Forms or Sway by copying the embed code into, for example, a note in your itslearning course. I'll show you how this looks. So I'm now logged into itslearning as a student, and I can see that my teacher has added a bulletin for me and linking a note that tells me about the summary about gases that we worked on last week. So if I open this, I can now see that the teacher has added a sway into the note, and I can easily go through that and check the content. This is of course also available on any other device that I might use. These are displayed also on mobile devices. I'll now talk a bit about Office Online, what it is and how it relates to Microsoft Office in general. For those of you who use the Office applications a lot, you've probably already discovered that the functionality that's available depends on the platform or device you're using. That means that what you can do in the desktop version of Word on your Windows computer is not the same as what you can do in Word, in the Word app on your phone or on an iPad. In short, Word is not Word. Just like we in itslearning make careful considerations about what we should build or in some cases retire, Microsoft considers which features they should build into their apps and online versions. So we get the tools we need, but at the same time a piece of software that's quick and easy to use. What makes it extra confusing is that Word in Office Online inside itslearning is not the same as Word in Office Online using Office 365. What we have and offer you is a so-called on-premise solution, meaning our own installation of Office that we deliver as part of itslearning. This makes it possible for our students and educators to use Word, Excel and PowerPoint in itslearning without having a Microsoft account. Another benefit is that you don't have to think about where those documents are stored, because they're right where you want them in their pedagogical context. Accessing your OneDrive from itslearning is easily done in a simple step by connecting your Microsoft account to your itslearning account. We guide you through this without any complications, and it's a one-time thing. If you upload a document from OneDrive to itslearning, you can safely trust that we will handle access permissions and your students will find the document in its correct context. We just renovated our version of Office Online to make it more stable and performing better. At the same time, we also updated it to the latest version. With these improvements, the difference between what you can do in your desktop application and what you can do in Office Online in itslearning gets as small as possible. As mentioned earlier, it's not the same product, and there will always be some discrepancies. For some people, those are hardly noticeable. For others, they might be a bit annoying because it affects the exact feature they've used a lot. If you already use itslearning, you will now find new options in both Word, Excel and PowerPoint when you open them for editing inside itslearning. Office Online works directly in the browser within the framework of itslearning. The teacher or educator has complete control of who can read and edit the document in the same way as with any other element inside an itslearning course. There are a lot of ways to share and collaborate on documents, both inside and outside of itslearning. In general, a teacher has two main workflows. They want to share a document with the students for them to read, or they want to share a document that the students can collaborate in. I'm leaving assignments out of the picture for now, as I'll return to that. The options you find when you want to add a file to itslearning are slightly different depending on the settings and options available in your school or institution. By creating a document from inside itslearning, it's super easy for you to allow anyone in that course to collaborate on the document. So what are we doing right now? I've already mentioned the improvements in Office Online that we just released. But we're also working on a feature to make a copy for each student in the assignment tool. I'm going to demonstrate this in detail. In addition, we are working to allow you to add files to itslearning from Teams or SharePoint inside your course, your plan, assignment, etc. Our goal is to display the content of almost any file directly inside itslearning, if it's possible. This is already possible in a normal desktop browser for most file types, but we're working on making it smooth also on a mobile device. This way we make sure that it's quick and easy to get to the information you need anytime, anywhere. One very popular feature we made for our Google integration last year was the option to make a copy for each student when you create an assignment with a Google document. Seemingly a small little thing when you see it in the assignment tool, but tons of work behind the scenes. We've now done the same for Office Online. This means that as an educator, you can use a Word document, Excel spreadsheet or PowerPoint presentation in an assignment and hand out a copy of that for each student to use as the basis for their submission. They can work on the file inside itslearning, and when it's handed to you, you can assess their work inside itslearning with full access to comment and make changes. In the same view, you can give your feedback as text, audio or video and enter the grade for the student, all without leaving itslearning. When you're done, a single click text takes you to the next student's submission. itslearning handles the distribution and access permissions, and this saves you time and frustration because you can trust that all students have what they need to submit their work, and you get submissions of a consistent format. In addition, you're helping those students to make sure their work is always saved and available to them in the context where it belongs. This feature is actually already completed, and we're in the process of rolling it out and making it available to you. And I'll demonstrate how this works. So I'm now a teacher inside itslearning, and I'll open my chemistry course. And in the plans for today, I am going to add an assignment for my students. So I'll go down to the correct plan. We're going to make titrations, and I'll simply add a resource here. Create a new assignment. And from here I can now add a file from my OneDrive. So I'll select OneDrive, and it shows me the folders that I have with the files available. So I created a template that my students can use when they titrate to make a note of the volume and the pH. So I'll just simply add that to the assignment, and I can now select make a copy for each student. So this means that itslearning now takes this file and creates a copy that each student can use when they work on this exercise. I'll set the deadline for next week to hand this in. And you can also see that since I had learning objectives in my plan, these are automatically connected in the assignment when I create it in this way. I can now create this assignment, and it's instantly available for all my students. So if I now go back to the student, I can see that the exercise has shown up in my tasks. I can see how the teacher wants to assess this work. So these are in Norwegian, sorry about that. And I can now see that the teacher has created a file for me to write my answer. So if I click answer the assignment, the file is open for me and I can enter my data. Okay, so I'm pretty happy about that. There's no save here. It's always auto-saved. And I can now submit my assignment, or if I want to go back and work more before I submit it, I can also do that because everything is already here. It's saved as a draft automatically. So now I'll just submit this and say that I'm done. Going back as a teacher, I can now see the submission from my student. It's in my follow-up tasks, so I can see that there is one student who has submitted this. I can open it. I see that it's handed in but not corrected yet. And I can now see the content of what the student has submitted. I can make any edits here if I want. I can change the status. I can add my feedback if I want, and I can also record audio or video to give my feedback to the student. It's also possible to add a file here if I want to add more information. If you had a different kind of workflow where you need to have a full file as the feedback to the student. And I can easily now just go to the next student if there were more submissions. So that's the make a copy feature. It's something that's taken us a long time to build, but we're very proud of it, and we are convinced this is going to save both time and frustration for teachers because you have so much more consistency and the students can find their files very easily. So what are we working on right now? We are making it easier to access your cloud files, and with a single point of entry you can go directly to your cloud storage. And in this we are giving you access not only to the OneDrive that you have today, but also Teams and SharePoint files. You can see in this picture that we can also see OneNote, and that's a future goal for us, to be able to also allow you to add pages from OneNote into itslearning. So adding files from SharePoint or your Teams file space will make it even easier to get hold of those files that you work on in different platforms. I mentioned earlier that not all versions of Word can do the same thing. Some features are still missing in some versions, and we do know that many educators have an established practice of how they work and assess student work. In some cases that relies on functionality that's not only available in the desktop applications like the Office add-ins. This is not easily resolved in our Office Online offering, but we're now working to solve this by allowing you to open the document from inside itslearning in your desktop application. We'll take care of saving your work so nothing gets lost. In addition, as I briefly mentioned, we know that OneNote is gaining users in education. We want to allow you to pick pages from OneNote, just like you can pick a file from your OneDrive and add them to your courses. I'm expecting to see these features later this year.
Thank you everyone for joining this session and sticking around. I'm going to show you some links. So here are some useful links with more information about itslearning in Office 365. We will upload this recording to YouTube, and you will find these links in the description. The video will send to all the registrants today. Of course, you can ask more questions in the follow-up email. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, as we will post there more information about the next webinar session, as well as any other news in regards to Office 365 and product updates. So let's stay in touch. Thank you again to Frøydis and to everyone for joining us today, and have a nice weekend.
Okay, thank you.